welcome back to our Wednesday night Bible study. I want to welcome you in. Rhonda Watson is with me again, and we're going to wrap up our series we started 4 weeks ago, and we looked at the story of Ruth. We spent a couple of weeks on Esther, and we're going to wrap up tonight by looking at the Proverbs 31 woman. And so this is not an actual person, this is more of a description. And we'll kind of get into it. And if you have a Bible, go ahead and just flip to Proverbs 31. And as you're doing that, I just want to read kind of the opener here. It says, the sayings of King Lemuel, and inspired utterance his mother taught him. And so here's the deal, Rhonda, as we think about who the author is of Proverbs 31, we don't know anything about King Lemuel. His name is not found in the list of the kings of the judges or, the kings of Judah or Israel. So either he was a pagan king who put faith in Yahweh. Some argue that maybe he was Solomon, but it's a pretty weak argument. He was probably a king who had a Jewish mother who taught him how to fear the Lord. And so that is the author of Proverbs 31. So is there a theme verse on this in this passage here, in this 31?
Yes. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised.
Okay, so a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised is really the theme of Proverbs 31. And so as we get into it, of course, verses 10 through 31 really is a description of this woman that we'll be looking at. But the opening verses are warnings from a mother to her son who is in line to be the king, and she warns him, gives him kind of three warnings as I read it. And the first one is women. He says in verse 2 and 3, don't spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. And so again, these are words of advice from a mother to her son, who is either a king or about to be a king. And so you could argue Proverbs 31 is written for men,
right,
but
right.
It's written.
And you could replace kings with who ruin yourself or men.
That's exactly right. And so, we know David and Solomon both were brought down by women. The second warning is about alcohol. He says it's not for kings to drink wine, nor for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and deprived all the oppressed of their rights. And so she warns him about, if you're going to rule, you need to do so with clear judgment. Imagine going in front of a judge and the judge being, tipsy. It's like you want someone who's going to judge clearly and make good judgments. And so, this is good advice for anyone who leads. Be clear-headed and clear-minded. And he goes on later to say that alcohol should be reserved for those who are suffering, kind of as a way to knock the edge off the pain. And we do remember that even Jesus was offered alcohol on the cross, and he refused it exactly. And so the third thing is not speaking up for the poor. He says, speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves, for the rights of those who are destitute. And so it's interesting that her political concern isn't for a strong treasury or military power. Rather, it's pleading the case of the poor and the needy. And so I thought that was kind of interesting how she put that emphasis there.
Okay, the next 22 verses of Proverbs 31 start with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. There were 22 reasons why this woman is deserved of being praised. And the purpose of it was to make it easy to memorize. And my studying said that this is part of the Jewish custom, was that the woman would study this woman and that they would look to her as an example. In fact, historians say that most likely Mary, the mother of Jesus, studied this woman. And it was custom also that they would recite these verses weekly so that the girls would know this incredible example set out before us. Now he is writing these verses he is writing these verses so that the following verses are written in an acrostic. He's writing 22 praiseworthy things to say about her.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Again, I think that would be very helpful if you were memorizing it. That would be something that
In
people
teaching,
you people
yeah.
in education
Right,
are
in
just crazy about
teaching,
acrostics.
right.
Yeah,
We use that a lot.
yeah. So how we should receive this section right here, it's the kind of woman that a king should look for.
Mm-hmm.
It's these are qualities, characteristics that she's encouraging her son to look for in a woman. And so, if you're a woman, whether you're married or not unmarried, this section of scripture maybe inspires you to fear the Lord and to be more like this woman. If you're a man out there, this should inspire you as a husband. If you're a young person out there, this section right here should inspire you as children to praise your mother or your wife if she fears the Lord. It's something that we're to do. We're to praise those that draw near to God.
Right.
And so let's read verses 10 through 31. It's a lot there. We're not going to cover it all, but let's at least read it and allow the Holy Spirit to work through all that's being said here as we hear it.
Okay. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate.
Yeah, and so again, looking at the theme verse there, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Great job reading that. And so I want to raise this question here. What does it mean to fear the Lord? It's a good question. And we kind of grapple with that. I know in a lot of our Bible classes over the years, we've talked about this here. What's interesting in Exodus 20, verse 18, when the people, this is after the giving of the 10 Commandments, the people were staying at a distance, and they said to Moses, "Say, speak to God on our behalf. We don't want to get near him or we'll die." Moses said to the people in verse 20, he said, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning." And that's an interesting passage there. As you look at that, it says, "Do not be afraid, but the fear of God will keep you from sinning." So how do you reconcile that verse? And so there was a John Piper, a theologian, who gave this illustration that I thought was maybe helpful. I don't know, I'm trying to understand this, but like suppose you and your family were going to visit another family, and you get out of your car and you're halfway between the front door and your car, and a German Shepherd comes around the corner. And the German Shepherd he's barking and he's coming towards you. And the owner opens the door and says to you, "Do not run. In fact, what I want you to do is I want you to walk toward the dog." And as the hardest thing not to do would be, not to run, it'd be
Right.
like it's kind of instinctive to do that.
I would run.
Most of us would, okay? But let's say you started walking toward the owner and toward the dog, and then as you got closer to the dog started wagging its tail and became friendly all of a sudden. He said it's kind of, there's no perfect illustration to kind of paint this verse right here, but he kind of made an attempt at saying that, God wants us to draw near to him. He wants us to come toward him. He wants us to have fellowship with him. This is what his great desire is. But at the same time, he says the moment that you run from God and you seek to serve yourself or to leave God for your life of sin, that's the time you ought to be most fearful.
Right.
And while it's not a perfect illustration, I think it somewhat helps to kind of illustrate this right here. And really, this whole idea is found all throughout Scripture. Psalm 25, verse 14, the Lord confides in those who fear him. He makes his covenant known to them. Oh, that's very
And
interesting.
also Psalm 31:19 says, how abundant are the good things that you have stored up for those who fear you, that you bestow in the sight of all on those who take refuge in you. Also in Psalm 34:7, it says, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Notice those who keep the fear of God before their eyes will not run from him, but will take refuge in him.
Yeah, and this is what the Proverbs 31 woman is being praised for.
Right.
Is she has this fear of the Lord. There are countless passages. I'll read a couple of more, but Psalm 33, verse 18, but the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love. And then Psalm 147, verse 11 says, the Lord delights in those who fear him. He delights in those who fear him, who put their hope in his unfailing love. Again, this is a theme throughout a lot of the Old Testament passages and certainly the Psalms. But it's not running away from God. It's drawing near to God.
Right.
But,
In fact, it's
but we talked about
reverencing
reverence,
God.
yeah.
Right.
But having a reverence and a respect for God.
Right. And putting God as number one, putting him as the priority. I think that's what the woman in Proverbs 31 did mostly. She put God at number one on the top. And she understood that. And that it shows her inner beauty. I think your inner beauty comes out when you have put God as number one. People see that. People recognize that. A woman who fears the Lord will not run away from God to satisfy her longings. She will wait for the Lord. She will hope in God. She will stay close to the heart of God and trust his promises. The thought of departing into the way of sin will be too fearful to pursue, and the benefits of abiding in God is too glorious.
Amen. All right, so look at our theme verse again. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Just want to keep that in front of you. This is the theme of this whole passage right here. Next question is, why should we praise such a woman? And so when you praise a God-fearing woman, you are indirectly praising God. And, I don't know why there is a stigma of, we don't want people to get the big head. And so we reserve our praise for people. But, whenever you lavish praise on my children, indirectly, Renee and I are praised. If I praise Emily or Abby, you and Ken are indirectly praised.
Right.
And whenever we praise someone who fears the Lord, indirectly, God is praised. One verse, verse 28, says, her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. And so, here you have this picture here where a family is building up one another.
Exactly.
It's really okay. It's really okay to praise and to build up your spouse. You and I know, Rhonda, that tomorrow's not guaranteed, and so
Right.
it's an opportunity that we have today to praise and to build up those in our family.
And
Let's go ahead
others.
and do it while we have opportunity
Right,
to do it.
and not just our family of God and others. This woman is not a jealous woman. She doesn't show judgment for other people. She's not resentful or vengeful. She doesn't trick people or try to get even. She doesn't try to steal other people's thunder. I thought that was interesting. She's careful not to be hurtful and mindful of her actions. We're to celebrate each other's successes and to rejoice with each other and to build each other up, whether it be in our small family or whether it be in our family, our church family, or in our community. We're not to bring people down.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of what's going on. Maybe that's one of the reasons we reserve our praise for other people is, we're not receiving it, or maybe we want it, again, back to the heart. But yeah, he's clearly freeing us up here to, to do this for one another. All right, next question here is, Rhonda?
What does a woman who fears the Lord look like? Well, she doesn't fear tomorrow's troubles. Look at all the things that she's not afraid of. She knows that God will provide. Verse 25 says she laughs at the days to come. And verse 21 says when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She's prepared. She has made coverings and clothes for her family. So I think that teaches us that we should be prepared.
Yeah.
Not only in this sense, but we should be prepared for when the Lord returns.
Yeah. I did a little bit of study in that, and I just thought of it when you read it. But scarlet there, some have said that, it's kind of it would stick out against the snow, and so that be easily spotted. But a deeper look at the word there is double layered. It's like her family is prepared for the snow because she's done the due diligence of having it closed. They're double layered for the weather. But like you said, she's prepared. She's her family is taken care of, so she doesn't worry about tomorrow. Secondly, she has practical wisdom. It says here that she speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. This is verse 26 here. And so there is a connection between wisdom and the freedom from anxiety about the future, which is something that right now, when you look at people who are anxious, they're tense and they're fretful about tomorrow, and they have very little confidence in the future. And those folks we don't usually go to for counsel. We usually look for counsel from people that know that God holds tomorrow and have a clear understanding about the future, and that God holds the future in His hand. But she's someone that has practical wisdom. You mentioned, that her tongue is mentioned, right here in this verse for the first time. But she has faithful instruction on her tongue.
Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and the Bible talks about how strong the tongue is. When I was growing up, I heard a preacher say one time that the little rhyme that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. He said, no, sticks and stones will break my bones, and words will break my heart.
Yeah.
And a broken heart lasts a lot longer than a broken bone. So we have to be careful and speak our words with love and kindness and gentleness.
And we tend to speak words that are unfiltered whenever we're not in public and we're at home.
To the closest ones that we have. The ones that we love the most are the ones that usually get the brunt of our... Yeah.
And so, putting the filter on at home is just as important as we, as putting it in public,
Right,
and we've all made mistakes, and I'm the first one to confess it. As a young father, man, I could take some things back. I would do that, but you do live and learn, don't you?
You do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The third thing it says, she will live for others. In verse 11 and 12, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. And she's described here as financially supporting her husband, and more importantly, she brings moral support. She, in verse 20, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She finds herself in a good place, but she is not hoarding. But instead, she's extending her arms and opening her arms to the poor and needy. And I think that she gave generously and extravagantly to those. She wasn't just a housewife. She was a businesswoman too. And so, from what I understand, she probably was somewhat wealthy.
Yep.
And had the resources to give to the poor and the needy. I think that's important for us to know, because all of us in America are wealthy in the sense, when you consider the whole world, and we should use our resources to help the poor and the needy.
And you mentioned earlier in our study that she took care of her servants as well.
Exactly.
So that's a sign of wealth. So this mother, as she is giving advice to her son, says, "Be sure and speak up for the poor. Give a voice to those who don't have a voice." And then when you look for a spouse, look for someone who opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. It's like, don't marry someone that's going to go against the very thing that you want to be about.
Exactly.
Find someone that you're compatible with when it comes to building your kingdom. Make a good choice there. All right, so charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Just a few takeaways as we kind of wrap up here. You want to begin with the first one?
Sure.
Okay, all right.
She does not run from God, but stays close to God in His mercy. And we talked about that, running from God and fearing and running away. So she doesn't do that.
Yeah, and that again comes back to the fear of God. Is I know that God is holy and God is awesome, but He wants me to draw near to Him. But as you pointed out earlier, is having that reverence and respect for Him. While we do that, it keeps us from doing the things that are disobedient to what He desires. All right, the second one is that she is to be praised, because that will strengthen her hand in God, honor the Lord, and make our lives happier. And so someone that is properly honored, who is properly appreciated in the home, husbands, children, when you praise your mother and your wife, what you're doing is you're making the home better. You're making a better place, a better atmosphere, because so much is done. So much of what a woman does goes unseen and unpraised, that when you do that, you're actually helping yourself out.
Right. When I worked, if my principal came around and talked to me and said, "Miss Watson, you did a great job on that bulletin board," or "You're doing a great job here," all that did was fire me up, make me want to work more. And I think that applies in the home also.
Just acknowledging.
Right. To feel appreciated.
Absolutely.
She can be recognized because she's confident and not anxious about the future. She has wisdom on her lips, and she's strong, and she brings her husband honor by support and reaches out her hand to the needy. She is smart. She's capable. She's a can-do girl. She's not afraid to do things on her own because she has a purpose. And I want to stop here and say, each one of us has a purpose in life. God didn't just accidentally place you here on this earth. And He has not forgotten about you either. And He has a purpose for your life. And He wants you to pursue that purpose. You might say, "What is my purpose? What am I?" You may wander around aimlessly wondering what that is, living day to day wondering to define, and allowing other people, allowing social media to define your actions and who you are. But God has called you, and He's chosen you, and He's equipped you for your purpose. Pray to God and ask Him to show you, to open your eyes and show you, and He will. He will. I firmly believe that He will show you your purpose. He will put opportunities in front of you to use your gifts, and you will be praised for that and recognized for that.
Yeah, I like that point there, that she is strong. I mean, you even see that in the verses that you're reading, that she actually works with her hands. That she's maybe a well-to-do person, but she's not afraid to serve.
No.
No.
And, the Bible tells us that what we've been given, we will be accountable for, and the more that we're given, the more accountable we will be for our resources. So that's important.
So a lot of responsibility.
Right.
She has a lot of responsibility. Yeah. All right. Well, that is the Proverb 31 woman right there. And so I want to thank everybody for joining in our study. And Rhonda, thank you for the last 4 weeks.
Well, I've enjoyed it.
I don't know who's going to come in next, but the set's not going to look as good.
Oh.
It's all going to go downhill from here. And
You're too kind.
we appreciate your study. I didn't know what to expect. When James mentioned when you don't have somebody, a female come in as we study some of the women characters of the Bible, you're the one that came to my mind. But I really didn't have any idea that what to expect. But it far exceeded my expectations. In the sense that you brought a lot of study and a lot of wisdom to this study and a lot of insight. We appreciate it.
I hope I have.
We appreciate it. No
I've
doubt
enjoyed
about
it.
Let's wrap up with a word of prayer, everyone. Would you join me in that prayer? Father, we thank you so much for being so good to us that you want us to draw near to you. And so you invite us to do that. And I pray for those that might be listening who sense a distance between them and you, Lord, that they'll take that next step and move in towards you. Father, as we look at this proverb tonight, Proverbs 31, it just seems like a lot of what's being described here is almost impossible for any person to live out. But we know that this is a description of a mother to a son about what she ought to look for, what he ought to look for in a spouse, and help us to read that in that perspective, to know that any mother has high expectations for her son's spouse, but we can look into that, Lord, and make good decisions as husbands to be. And we can also look into this passage, Father, and be challenged as women, as mothers, at the incredible virtues and standards that are described here. That we're not done. There are things that we can improve on to make our lives better and more glorious to you. I pray that you would encourage us as husbands, as children, as men, to not hold back our praises to our spouses and to our mothers, but to allow those words to be freely given and know that you are indirectly praised, Lord. And we want to praise you. We want to praise your children who fear the Lord. Help us all, Lord, the remainder of this week to hold you in high esteem, Lord, to fear you and to know that our position ought to be to move towards you in every way. We thank you again for your word that helps us to do this, and we thank you for the word that warns us what comes to us whenever we move away from you. And we thank you for that good, healthy warning that we're given in the middle of this week. Lord, I pray for those that are sick in our church family, those that are ill. I pray, Father, that you would heal them all. We thank you, Lord, that you have a hand that is powerful to heal, and we give you all those that are having difficulty tonight. And I pray for those that are discouraged in some way. I pray that you'll send someone to send a word of encouragement. It doesn't take much, but I pray, Lord, that you'll use our church family to look at those who are hurting and to provide a word of encouragement this week. Use us to that end, Lord. Just our humble prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.